Well, hey guys. So today we're going to have this kind of intricate sort of banner that's going to be floating above our shield. It's going to be part of the shield, but it's also going to be separate from the shield. It's not necessarily a shield in this case. It's going to be a bit of a different shape, and we're actually going to explore a couple different ways of creating the shape. So let's start into it. I'm going to get my web large over here, and I'll just start into this here. So let's let that load up. Okay, so let's. We're going to start off with our little outline here. So this outline, we're just going to start off with a rectangle. I'm going to make it, say, for instance, I don't know, kind of like a piece of paper kind of ratio, a little taller than it is wide, but not like super narrow, not super tall. I'll fill it with something like, say, for instance, blue, or maybe even, yeah, I'll say blue, and I'll just go ahead and change my layer bounding box to, say, for instance, magenta, so that I can see better. Okay. With that done, so there's several different ways of creating this little shape I'm looking for. I'm looking for a shape that's sort of square, but also instead of having that little circular boss, it's going to have sort of a diamond boss. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I'm going to just go ahead and show you two different ways to make this shape. The first way, which I would say is the simplest way, is to simply add an anchor point to the to your shape here. So for instance, we go over here to Object, Path, and Add Anchor Points, which adds an anchor point at the halfway point between all the points. And we'll do that one more time. Object, Path, Add Anchor Points. And in this case, now we have these two anchor points sitting there in the middle. And if I were to say, for instance, grab like, I could just grab this guy here and just sort of, drag him up a little bit. That will give us a bit of a marker, especially if they're both centered. Let's see if they're both centered here. Both centered. All right. And in which case, I can just go in here and grab this center anchor point and just drag this upward until it meets up with the bottom there. All right. So obviously, if you're not having an easy time with your smart guides, then what you would want to do is you would want to simply, let's see if we can't move this back down to where it was before. I'll just sort of shrink this down a little bit. If you're having a hard time with your smart guides, the other way would be just to simply create like a large rectangle here, or just a square of some kind, and just flip it over onto its side, like so, 45-degree angle, and kind of replace it sort of down this way some. Obviously, in this case, you're going to be working with, let's see, we could actually just grab our shape little tool and just click once on it, and then what we can do is then shrink this down to where it has a bit more of a shallow angle to it, and just alt drag this straight down. And we'd want to group these together, so we could then what we could do is we could then center them horizontally to make sure they're even, and then we could just unify all this together. So this is two different ways of making the same shape essentially. And as always, you could just grab this if you wanted to make this taller and pull it down, or shorter, or whatever. If you want to round the corners off, that's fine too. What I'll do is I'll just I'll just delete one of these. Doesn't matter which one you use, but that's two different ways to make this little shape here. And we'll just do our little offset. We'll offset twice this go around, just to have a little white sort of gap, or at least there's a blank gap here. So I'll do -10 and press OK. And oops, no, -10 here. Try it again. -10. And I'll do that one more time. Offset. I might even do that -20 this time. And we could just exclude all this, which gives us this little bit here in the center that we can use. I think I might like it just to be 10 again, so I'm not sure if I enjoy that all that much. -10, make it even here. We can exclude this, so we'll have this chunk in the center that's giving us our main sort of field. Okay, so I'm going to put this off to the side, and let's create our little banner. So this banner is going to be kind of intricate, so we're going to have 3 rectangles that are going to be roughly the same size. You could sort of alter them in different ways as you go, but I'll just duplicate this, Alt drag this down, Alt drag this down again. And you see right here I have a little smart guide pop up that allows me to make sure they're the right distance from each other, they're equidistant from each other. What I can do here is I can always grab these and go to my align dialog box and just make sure the spacing is even in terms of their center, or in terms of their vertical spacing here. So the vertical spacing works best if they're like different sizes. So for instance, maybe I wanted to make this one a bit smaller. You just sort of Alt shift shrink that one there. Maybe make this one just not quite as small, and a little bit so we have like descending shapes. In which case I would want to use maybe instead of the center, just use vertical spaces to separate them. Right, and so in this case we have the vertical spaces, so that's good. Okay, so I'll keep it like this, and I'll just make sure they're centered, like so. And what we'll do is we'll just right-click on these all together, transform, and we'll shear them, and we'll just do the negative 10. And let's see what it looks like. Make sure this is on the vertical axis here. That's good. Okay, cool. And I'll just press OK. And now what we'll do is we'll bring out the old pen tool just to kind of take a look at this. I want to create a bit of a sort of scrolling background to this, as in like maybe this is sort of one solid piece. So what I'll do is I'll just click here, and I'll just match these corners up like so. And I'm going to turn this red just so I see what I'm looking at here. And I'll go ahead and put that in the background here. And then I'll do the same thing for these two. I'll just click on these 4 points, join them together, and there's Control, Shift, and square bracket to put that to the background here. So with my move tool selected, I'm going to make a copy of these and just alt drag them down and unify these. I'm going to leave that there for just a second. And let's kind of go through this. We're going to create sort of some sort of white space in the background here. Real quick, just to change this to a different color, say for instance green. And but let's create some white space in here. We'll just offset this path by, say for instance, 5 pixels. Let's see how that looks like. That's really good. And we can just take this and hold down Shift and minus front. And we'll do the same thing to this guy here. We'll offset this path by 5, and we'll just minus front. And we'll do the same thing. I think we want to say we can probably just grab both of these and offset the path by 5, and then hold down Shift, grab this one in the center, and oops. So once again, offset this path by 5, and then hold down Shift and grab the one in the center, and then we can just minus front from here. And so that gives us this little wrapping seam. So we can just, you know, for instance, turn all these blue, and so we can kind of see this sort of look here. If you wanted to say, for instance, maybe make this a bit thinner to kind of have it, you know, make it seem as if more of a wrapping motion, that might work. But I think at this point we can kind of tell, you know, what's going on here. If we just sort of move along with the next little bit here. The next little bit we're going to do is we're just going to offset this by -5, and we'll just minus front. And then we'll do the same thing here. We'll just offset both of these by -5, and then 1 by 1, minus front, minus front. So now you can kind of see the illusion starts to come clear here. Okay, so with these right here, I'll go ahead and unify these. And what we can do now is we can just drag this feller over here. In fact, what we can do is we can sort of center these up just so we can kind of know what's going on. And what I want to do here is I actually want to offset this path by, let's say, 10. Maybe this. Okay. And I'm not sure what's going on with this little point over here. This happens sometime. For whatever reason, this little guy adds a new anchor point right about here. And, you know, I'm not sure I really like that, so I'm just going to sort of grab my direct select tool, and I'm just going to alt drag that up to where it's matching that line there. So that looks good. And if that obviously doesn't happen with you, you don't have to worry about it. But we're not going to worry about this one over here. But what we are going to do is we are going to grab this path here, grab this one, and we're just going to minus front. Oops. We're going to alt. We're going to take this. First off, I'll get rid of this smaller path here. And take this, use the direct select tool, and then we'll grab, well, first off, let's Control C, Control F. I'll change this color to red or pink. And I'll just grab this. Use my direct select tool, hold down Shift, grab this one in the background, and my Pathfinder tool over here, minus front, and then we'll just grab this one and hold down Shift, grab that one. We're using the direct select tool and minus front. Okay, so we have a lot of this gone now, but we can still kind of tell just by virtue of closure where everything is. So if I were to now grab both of these and just center them, I'll just center them to the artboard here. We can kind of see what we're looking at here. So look at that, that's kind of fun. And so once again, we've got a whole bunch of options when it comes to what we can use. I think I'm not really sure I like this one little tag that's sitting here. Let's just get rid of that. And that'll give us this sort of space in the middle. So we've got this little banner kind of hanging out, and once again we can write some things here. So I might revisit what I did before with you know, just say, you know, premium, and I'll change this to a new font. Always change your font from something other than Myriad Pro. Bison bold's nice. I was using big Felix titling before, or other. Big Noodle titling, not Felix titling. That's a more of a standard font here. And what I can do here is I can just right click on this and I can just transform and shear this one the same as I did before. And what I can do now is just use my direct select tool to click on this rectangle here and make sure this is the key object, as it were. Once again, let me just I can center these. Oops. I'll just move this one up now. So that's about right. I'll nudge that down some. And I'll just alt drag this down and put in tip top quality. And we'll just shrink this down to fit inside. So I'll just center this. Nudge this up a little bit, and we'll just alt drag this down, and we'll shrink it down a little bit, and we'll put in tasty food, or whatever you'd like. So this is a fun little shape here. I like this a little bit. This is kind of a little bit different here, just in terms of what we've been doing before. And I like this little banner that kind of happens in front of it. So this is just one of many things that you can use this Pathfinder tool to create. Just creating different shapes using the different things we've done. Let's select everything. We'll once again go to Type, and we'll go to Create Outlines, and we can just unify all this stuff here. And what we can do here is just I'll drag it to the side. Grab your rectangle here. I'm going to actually just shrink this down slightly. Grab a rectangle. And I might actually just pull all the sides in like so. And make it a bit of a pill. And we'll just center all this together. To the selection. And we'll exclude. Alright, neat. So we got this. Let's change the fill to something other than black and white, if you wouldn't mind. I might just try dark blue again. That's my jam. Alright, cool. And then we'll just group this together, and we'll send it to the artboard. Cool. Alright, neat. So that's how we make this fun little shape here. Now, like I said before, there's all manner of things you can do to add on to this. If you want to look a little like kind of vignette corner on the side here, if you want to add some other things, that's always you got a lot of wiggle room when it comes to this. But with this little design, I like this little back and forth, and we could even like add like a little tag here if we wanted to. But I think this is good as it is. All right, cool. Well, go ahead and save this and export this as a PNG. Not export as, but export for screens. So let's cancel this. So file, export for screens, and make sure you select PNG. And cool. Well, all right. So make sure it's not white, not black. All right. Can't wait to see you guys produce. See you in class.